Old Hollywood looked perfect on screen. Glamorous stars, flawless fashion, and dazzling smiles. But what if I told you that behind those shining lights were some of the nastiest hygiene habits you could imagine? From unwashed costumes to leading men with breath that could clear a room, these shocking rumors will make you see your favorite icons in a whole new way. So, how bad was it really? Stay with us as we reveal the 20 most disgusting hygiene secrets of old Hollywood. And trust me, you'll want to see who tops this list. Hollywood's golden glow. Masking a not-so-sweet smell. When we think of old Hollywood, we picture dazzling stars, perfect smiles, and flawless fashion. But behind the curtain of glamour, there was something most fans never imagined. Bad smells, dirty clothes, and shocking hygiene habits. The truth is, Hollywood's golden age wasn't as fresh as it looked on screen. Back then, daily showers and deodorant weren't a given. Many stars followed the trends of the time, and personal cleanliness wasn't always a top priority. Studio executives cared more about how their actors looked under bright lights than how they smelled after hours of filming. As long as they looked good on camera, no one cared if they skipped a bath, or a few. Makeup and costumes also made things worse. Early makeup was packed with toxic ingredients like lead and mercury, which didn't just harm the skin, but also made it harder for actors to stay clean. Costumes, especially the expensive ones, were rarely washed because studios feared they'd lose their shape or color. That meant stars were often stuck wearing sweaty, unwashed clothes for weeks. There was also an unspoken rule in Hollywood: don't talk about it. Actors, directors, and crew members might suffer through bad breath or body odor, but complaining about a big star's hygiene could ruin your career. As one insider once said, "You didn't have to smell good, you just had to look good." But while many stars quietly followed these bad hygiene norms, some took it to a whole new level. Few names stand out more than Marlon Brando, a man whose talent was unmatched, but whose hygiene made headlines behind closed doors. Let's take a closer look at how Brando became Hollywood's most brilliant and most unbearable presence. Marlon Brando, the method actor who ditched the shower. Marlon Brando was known for changing acting forever, but off-screen, he was just as famous for something far less glamorous: his refusal to shower. As he grew older, Brando's personal hygiene became a serious issue for anyone who had to work with him. Brando often went days without bathing. It wasn't just about being too busy. It was his way of rejecting Hollywood's rules. He didn't care about looking or smelling perfect. He once joked, "If they don't like how I smell, they can stay away." But for co-stars and crew stuck on set with him, staying away wasn't an option. His grooming habits, or lack of them, made things worse. Brando stopped caring about combing his hair or keeping his clothes clean. He'd show up on set looking disheveled, with a noticeable body odor that made filming uncomfortable for everyone around him. In his later years, this became part of his reputation. What's surprising is that, despite all this, Brando remained one of the most respected actors in Hollywood. His raw talent and powerful performances overshadowed his personal habits. Directors knew that if they wanted Brando's brilliance, they had to put up with his smell. Behind the scenes, people whispered about how difficult it was to work with him. But no one dared confront him directly. After all, he was Marlon Brando, an icon whose talent made him untouchable, even if his hygiene didn't. And Brando wasn't alone. While he chose to ignore basic hygiene, others had different reasons for their not-so-fresh reputations. Take Jean Harlow, for example, the shining starlet whose dazzling beauty lit up the screen, but whose off-screen habits told a very different story. Jean Harlow, the blonde bombshell with a lingering presence. Jean Harlow was Hollywood's original blonde bombshell. With her platinum hair and stunning looks, she became a symbol of 1930s glamour. But behind that sparkling image was a surprising truth. Harlow reportedly avoided bathing, and it didn't go unnoticed. It's said that Harlow rarely washed, though reasons remain unclear. Some believed it was due to health concerns, while others thought she simply didn't like the routine. Whatever the reason, crew members and co-stars often complained about her strong body odor, especially during long filming days under hot studio lights. Her glamorous appearance was carefully crafted by the studios. Elegant gowns, perfect lighting, and flawless makeup created an illusion of perfection. But up close, the reality was far different. One insider recalled, "Jean lit up the screen, but you didn't want to stand too close." Despite the whispers about her hygiene, Harlow's charm and talent kept her at the top. Audiences never suspected a thing, as they only saw the polished star Hollywood wanted them to see. Her natural charisma made people overlook what was happening behind the scenes. In the end, Jean Harlow's legacy wasn't tarnished by rumors of infrequent bathing. She remains an icon of old Hollywood beauty, a reminder that sometimes the brightest stars had secrets that stayed hidden just out of camera range. While Jean Harlow's habits stayed mostly behind closed doors, some stars carried their bad hygiene like a badge of honor. One such legend? Bette Davis, a powerhouse actress whose fiery personality was only matched by the cloud of smoke and stale air that followed her everywhere. Bette Davis, cigarettes, sweat, and stubbornness. Bette Davis was one of Hollywood's fiercest talents, a woman known for her sharp tongue, intense stare, and unforgettable performances. But behind her legendary screen presence was a habit that made working with her difficult. Bette Davis was rarely seen without a cigarette, and that constant smoking left more than just a trail of ashes. It left a smell that lingered. Davis was a chain smoker in every sense. She lit one cigarette after another, both on and off set. Over time, the smell of tobacco clung to her clothes, hair, and breath. Co-stars, especially those in romantic scenes, found it hard to ignore. One actor famously said, "Kissing Bette was like kissing an ashtray, but she was worth it." But it wasn't just the smoking. Davis wasn't known for caring much about regular bathing either. While many actresses of her time followed strict beauty routines, Davis took a more relaxed approach to personal cleanliness. She was focused on her craft, not on keeping up appearances when the cameras weren't rolling. Her strong personality meant that few dared to mention the issue. Davis was known for speaking her mind and didn't tolerate criticism lightly. If anyone had a problem with her hygiene, they kept it to themselves. After all, challenging Bette Davis could mean the end of your career. Despite her habits, Davis remained at the top of Hollywood's elite. Her raw talent, work ethic, and unforgettable performances made her untouchable. The smell of smoke and sweat might have filled the air around her, but audiences only saw the powerhouse actress who lit up every scene she touched. While Bette Davis left a cloud of smoke behind, another Hollywood legend was hiding a much worse secret, one that made even the most glamorous love scenes unbearable. Clark Gable might have been the king of Hollywood, but behind that charming smile was a hygiene issue no leading lady could forget. Clark Gable, the king of Hollywood's rotten secret. Clark Gable was the ultimate leading man, handsome, charismatic, and the face of timeless classics like Gone with the Wind. But off-screen, Gable carried a secret that made his romantic scenes far from picture-perfect: his notoriously bad breath. Gable suffered from serious dental problems early in life, which led to most of his teeth being replaced by dentures. The problem wasn't just the dentures, it was that Gable reportedly didn't take care of them properly. The result? A constant, foul odor that followed him everywhere. Vivien Leigh, his co-star in Gone with the Wind, once complained bitterly about having to kiss him, calling the experience anything but romantic. And it didn't stop with his breath. Rumors spread that Gable wasn't too fond of changing his underwear regularly. On long shoots, especially under hot studio lights, this habit made working closely with him even more unpleasant. For those who had to share scenes, or worse, close-ups, it was a challenge to keep the Hollywood illusion alive. Despite these behind-the-scenes truths, Gable's image never suffered. His rugged charm and confident screen presence kept audiences swooning. As one crew member joked, he could knock you out with a smile or his breath, but fans never knew the difference. In the end, Gable's legacy wasn't about what his co-stars endured. It was about his unforgettable roles and the image of a man who defined Hollywood masculinity, even if those closest to him wished he'd freshen up a bit more often. But Clark Gable wasn't the only star whose breath could clear a room. In fact, he was just one member of a growing club of Hollywood legends known more for their smoky, boozy scent than for any cologne. Enter Humphrey Bogart and Spencer Tracy, two icons whose talent was as strong as the smell that followed them. The smoky legends, Bogart and Tracy's tobacco-soaked breath. Humphrey Bogart and Spencer Tracy were two of Hollywood's most respected actors, tough, cool, and masters of their craft. But behind their iconic images was a less glamorous reality. Both men were heavy smokers and drinkers, and it showed in more ways than one. Bogart was famous for his chain-smoking habit. He was rarely seen without a cigarette, often lighting one from the last. The result? A constant haze of stale smoke and a breath that co-stars dreaded. Paired with his love for whiskey, Bogart's presence became a cocktail of tobacco and alcohol fumes. Leading ladies might have melted watching Casablanca, but off-screen, they were holding their breath. Spencer Tracy wasn't much different. Known for his powerful performances, Tracy also had a deep fondness for cigars and strong liquor. The combination left him with a permanent odor that followed him onto every set. Romantic scenes were a professional challenge. Actors had to push past the overwhelming scent to deliver convincing chemistry. Despite these personal habits, neither man's career suffered. Hollywood loved their rugged, no-nonsense personas, and audiences never suspected the discomfort lurking behind the scenes. One actress quietly admitted, "You didn't get close to Bogey or Tracy for the smell, you did it for the paycheck." Both stars proved that in Hollywood's golden age, being cool didn't require smelling fresh. Talent, charisma, and a bit of mystery were enough to keep their legends alive, odors and all. While Bogart and Tracy filled the air with smoke and whiskey, another star was obsessed with cleanliness, or so it seemed. Joan Crawford's polished image was legendary, but behind her spotless facade, there was a surprising hygiene rumor that didn't quite match her perfectionist reputation. Joan Crawford, Queen of Clean, or was she? Joan Crawford was famous for her obsession with cleanliness. Her homes were spotless, her makeup flawless, and her image perfectly polished. But behind the scenes, there was a rumor that didn't fit her tidy reputation. Crawford reportedly had a surprising habit of re-wearing her undergarments without washing them. Crawford's perfectionism was legendary. She demanded order in everything around her, from the shine on her floors to the way her staff folded towels. Yet, insiders whispered that when it came to her personal wardrobe, especially her lingerie, Joan wasn't as meticulous. It's said she would wear the same undergarments several times before laundering them. On hot Hollywood sets, where hours under bright lights left actors drenched in sweat, this habit didn't go unnoticed. Co-stars and crew members reportedly caught wind, literally, of Crawford's less-than-fresh attire. It was a surprising contradiction for a woman who insisted on perfection from everyone else. Still, no one dared call her out. Crawford was a powerhouse, both on-screen and off. One assistant famously remarked, "She could smell a speck of dust in a room but seemed blind to her own habits." Her commanding presence made questioning her personal choices unthinkable. Despite this strange quirk, Crawford's legacy remains untarnished. She's remembered as one of Hollywood's most glamorous icons, a woman who embodied control and elegance. The whispers about her undergarments became just another part of the mysterious duality that made Joan Crawford endlessly fascinating. While Joan Crawford's secret stayed hidden beneath layers of silk and satin, other stars couldn't hide their hygiene issues so easily. For some of Hollywood's most famous leading men, bad breath wasn't just a minor flaw. It was a full-blown problem that made every close-up a challenge. The breath of legends. Cary Grant, Barrymore, and the silent sufferers. Cary Grant was the picture of sophistication, suave, charming, and always impeccably dressed. But even the most polished stars had their flaws. Behind Grant's dazzling smile was a problem few dared to mention: persistent bad breath. Grant followed a strict diet, and instead of brushing regularly, he often relied on breath sprays to keep things fresh. Unfortunately, those quick fixes didn't always last through long shooting days. His co-stars noticed, but who would complain about Hollywood's most charming gentleman? As one actress put it, you smiled through it, because it was Cary Grant. John Barrymore, on the other hand, wasn't as subtle. Known for his brilliant acting and love of alcohol, Barrymore's heavy drinking and poor dental care left him with notoriously foul breath. His decline into excessive indulgence made romantic scenes particularly tough for his co-stars. These two weren't alone. In Hollywood, talking about a star's bad breath was taboo. Careers depended on keeping quiet and maintaining the illusion, even when actors like Grant or Barrymore made close. Encounters, unpleasant, professionalism, and fear kept everyone silent. Yet, despite these behind-the-scenes struggles, their legacies remained intact. Audiences only saw the charm, the talent, and the unforgettable performances. The reality of working with them, well, that was a secret left on the cutting room floor. But sometimes, it wasn't the stars themselves causing the problem, it was what they wore. In an era when costumes were too delicate to wash, even the most glamorous outfits held a dirty secret. Let's uncover how Hollywood's most iconic wardrobes became a breeding ground for sweat and stench. Costume confessions: when iconic outfits stank. Old Hollywood was known for its stunning costumes, dresses dripping with elegance, suits tailored to perfection. But what fans didn't know was that many of these iconic outfits were rarely, if ever, cleaned. The reason? Studios feared that washing them would ruin their delicate fabrics and perfect fit. Marilyn Monroe's figure-hugging gowns were a prime example. Made from fragile materials, her dresses weren't designed for cleaning. So, after long days under hot lights, they soaked up sweat, but stayed unwashed to maintain their flawless look. One wardrobe assistant once admitted, her dresses smelled like success and a little bit of reality. Vivien Leigh faced a similar issue filming Gone with the Wind. Her heavy, elaborate costumes were worn day after day, without cleaning. The heat, combined with layers of fabric, created an uncomfortable and increasingly smelly situation. But for the sake of preserving the costume's appearance, she had to endure it. Even Judy Garland's famous blue gingham dress from The Wizard of Oz wasn't spared. Though multiple versions existed, none were regularly cleaned. As filming dragged on, the dresses absorbed more sweat and grime, making Dorothy's innocent look far less fresh behind the scenes. Despite these challenges, the magic of Hollywood prevailed. Audiences never suspected that beneath the glamour, their favorite stars were often wrapped in costumes that carried more than just style. They carried the scent of hard work and long days. While costumes told one smelly story, some actors took matters into their own hands by refusing to wash what they wore. One of the biggest culprits? Charlie Chaplin, whose commitment to his iconic look came with a surprising and smelly price. Charlie Chaplin, the tramp's suit, a commitment to dirt. Charlie Chaplin's Little Tramp is one of the most iconic characters in film history. The bowler hat, cane, and ill-fitting suit became symbols of early cinema. But what audiences didn't know was that Chaplin's dedication to his character meant wearing the sun-grimy costume without ever washing it. Chaplin believed in authenticity. Since his silent films were often shot over long periods, he refused to clean or replace the tramp's suit. He wanted to maintain the same worn, ragged look throughout every scene. Washing it could change its texture, color, or fit, and Chaplin wasn't willing to risk that. The result? His costume became a collection of sweat, dirt, and odors. Chaplin's comedy was physical, running, falling, and tumbling in that same unwashed outfit. Over time, The suit absorbed everything from studio dust to perspiration from long days under hot lights. Crew members and co-stars noticed, but Chaplin's genius made complaints unlikely. One colleague later joked, "The tramp may have been silent, but his suit spoke volumes." For Chaplin, the grime was part of the magic, a detail that brought authenticity to a character beloved by millions. Despite the smell, Chaplin's legacy is untouchable. His commitment to his craft paid off, creating a timeless figure in film history. The tramp's suit may not have been fresh, but it became a symbol of resilience, humor, and cinematic brilliance. But while Chaplin's dirty costume was part of his character, some actors had no such excuse. For stars like Errol Flynn, skipping clean clothes wasn't about artistic vision, it was just bad hygiene. Let's dive into how Hollywood's favorite swashbuckler earned a reputation for more than just his daring roles. The Underwear Chronicles, Errol Flynn's swashbuckling stench. Errol Flynn was the ultimate Hollywood adventurer, charming, fearless, and always ready for action. But behind his dashing on-screen persona was a hygiene habit that left co-stars less than impressed. Flynn was notorious for rarely changing his underwear. Known for his wild lifestyle, late-night parties, heavy drinking, and a carefree attitude, Flynn didn't prioritize cleanliness. He would reportedly go days without swapping out his undergarments, even while filming intense action scenes that left him drenched in sweat. His roles in films like The Adventures of Robin Hood required sword fights, horseback riding, and constant movement under blazing studio lights. The combination of physical exertion and unwashed clothing quickly became noticeable to those working alongside him. One crew member quipped, "Errol could swing from a chandelier, but he couldn't swing by a laundry basket." Still, Flynn's charisma and undeniable talent allowed him to get away with habits that would have sunk lesser stars. Despite the whispers, Flynn's reputation as a Hollywood legend remained intact. His swashbuckling image and magnetic screen presence overshadowed the reality that, off-screen, he wasn't nearly as polished as he appeared. Flynn wasn't the only star who thought fresh clothes were optional. Another Hollywood rebel, James Dean, embraced a rugged, lived-in look, but his relaxed attitude toward hygiene wasn't just for show. Let's explore how Dean's iconic style came with a less glamorous side. James Dean, rebel without a care for clean clothes. James Dean defined cool. With his leather jacket, messy hair, and brooding stare, he became a symbol of youthful rebellion. But Dean's rough-around-the-edges image wasn't just a Hollywood creation, it reflected his real-life approach to hygiene. Dean preferred comfort over cleanliness. He was known for wearing the same clothes, often unwashed, for days at a time. His favorite jeans and shirts were worn in, sometimes to the point of being dirty. For Dean, this wasn't laziness, it was part of rejecting Hollywood's polished expectations. Showers weren't high on his priority list either. Friends and colleagues noted that Dean could go without freshening up, especially during long stretches of filming. The smell of sweat and cigarette smoke followed him, but it only seemed to add to his rebellious charm. One co-star remarked, "Jimmy didn't care if his clothes were clean, he cared if they felt right." His authenticity made him stand out in a world obsessed with perfection. Fans loved his raw, unfiltered persona, unaware that part of that cool came with a bit of a stink. Despite his short career, Dean became a lasting icon. His unconventional habits didn't tarnish his legend. In fact, they fed into the myth of the misunderstood outsider. James Dean proved that being real, even if a little grimy, could make you unforgettable. While James Dean's rugged style made him a rebel, some actresses hid their own hygiene shortcuts beneath layers of lace and glamour. Jane Mansfield may have dazzled on screen, but behind the scenes, her lingerie told a different story, one of repeated wears and ignored laundry days. Jane Mansfield, lingerie, glamour, and a few too many wears. Jane Mansfield was the definition of a Hollywood bombshell, bold, blonde, and always dressed to impress. But behind the glamorous photo shoots and sparkling screen presence was a habit that didn't fit her polished image. Mansfield was known to rewear her lingerie multiple times without washing it. On set, Mansfield stunned in figure-hugging outfits and luxurious undergarments. Yet, crew members noticed that her glamorous attire wasn't always fresh. Under the sweltering heat of studio lights, wearing the same lingerie day after day led to some noticeable discomfort for both Mansfield and those around her. It wasn't that she didn't care about appearances. Mansfield was meticulous when it came to her hair, makeup, and wardrobe choices. But when it came to hygiene, she reportedly took a more relaxed approach. One insider joked, she changed her lipstick more often than her lingerie. Despite the whispers, Mansfield's star power never dimmed. Her playful persona and undeniable charisma kept audiences captivated. Few cared or even knew about her behind-the-scenes habits. She was larger than life, and small details like laundry didn't seem to matter when the cameras were rolling. In the end, Jane Mansfield's legacy is one of glamour, confidence, and charm. Even if her lingerie wasn't always fresh, her place as one of Hollywood's most iconic sex symbols remains untouched. But while Mansfield's habits stayed hidden beneath silk and lace, one Hollywood giant couldn't hide his declining hygiene. Orson Welles, once the sharpest mind in cinema, became known in his later years for something far less brilliant: his complete disregard for personal cleanliness. Orson Welles. From cinematic genius to personal neglect, Orson Welles was a towering figure in Hollywood, both in talent and presence. The mastermind behind Citizen Kane, Welles was known for his brilliance. But as he aged, his sharp style gave way to a more careless attitude, especially when it came to hygiene. Welles reportedly stopped caring about changing his clothes, particularly his underwear. His love for fine food, wine, and a lavish lifestyle only added to the issue. The combination of indulgence and neglect led to an odor that followed him everywhere, on set, at meetings, and even at social gatherings. Colleagues noticed, but few dared to say anything. Welles's genius made him untouchable. One crew member famously remarked, "When Orson entered a room, you noticed two things: his voice and his scent." His declining hygiene became part of Hollywood lore, a hidden chapter in the story of a man who once defined perfection in filmmaking. Despite his personal habits, Welles's reputation as a cinematic icon never wavered. His groundbreaking work continued to inspire generations, proving that even as his hygiene faded, his brilliance never did. Orson Welles became a reminder that in Hollywood, talent could overshadow almost anything, even the strongest of smells. From unwashed costumes to forgotten showers, old Hollywood was full of secrets hidden just out of frame. But why did hygiene matter so little back then? To understand that, we need to pull back and look at the bigger picture. The truth about fame, illusion, and what audiences were never meant to know. The rotten truth. Why old Hollywood smelled bad but stayed beautiful. In Hollywood's golden age, image was everything, but only what the camera could capture. Behind the glamour, hygiene often took a back seat. Daily showers weren't common, deodorant wasn't widely used, and costumes were too delicate to clean. The result? A world that looked perfect but smelled far from it. Studios controlled every detail of a star's public image. They could polish appearances, stage photographs, and write glowing stories for magazines. But they couldn't change the reality on set, where sweat, smoke, and unwashed clothes were part of daily life. Still, audiences never knew. As long as the stars looked flawless, no one cared how they smelled. Actors and crew followed an unspoken rule: never expose the truth. Complaining about a legend's bad breath or body odor could end your career. So, the myths of perfection lived on, untouched by the gritty reality behind the scenes. As one old Hollywood insider put it, fame covers a lot of sins, especially the smelly ones. And they were right. Despite all the hygiene horrors, these stars became icons. Their talent, charisma, and carefully crafted images outshined any odor. In the end, old Hollywood proved something remarkable: that when it comes to legends, people remember the magic, not the mess. The silver screen stayed sparkling, even if the stars behind it weren't quite as fresh as they appeared. So, now you know, the golden age of Hollywood wasn't as clean as it looked. Behind the glamour were sweaty costumes, skipped showers, and legends who didn't always smell like success. But despite it all, these stars became icons, proving that talent shines brighter than any bad odor. Which of these hygiene secrets surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed this peek behind Hollywood's perfect facade, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss more untold stories from Tinseltown's dark side. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.